And farms.
Then farms, yeah, we had 27 ton of rock dropped off. So anyway, pardon me for 1 second. They are calling me back right now.
Hey, Jake, long time no see.
Yeah. Anybody have anything interesting going on? Or waiting for Joe?
Oh, I have a question. I don't know anything about like leasing agreements on commercial buildings and figuring out the cap and all of that. I am finally getting some interest in my commercial listing off 39th Street because of the Wally's gas station that's going to go in over there. And I had a good showing yesterday, and I have another showing today. And the person that saw it yesterday was very, very nice, and he was super concerned about all the cap rates and the zoning, and he even went and got like the blueprints from Jackson County Courthouse, which I felt stupid. I didn't realize I could go there and get those. But I also haven't had any interest, and nobody ever mentioned it. So that's something I'm going to go do. But does anybody have some good insight on what to do with that? I would like to learn more about it. It just seems very not in my ball field of what I normally do.
Maybe Nathan could help. Joe Goodwin, Ryan.
And I caught the tail end of that. I apologize. I was on a call. I apologize. Sorry.
I'm glad to help, but I just jumped in. Sorry, I just got out of a closing, but I'm here now, so I'm glad if you ask the question again, I'll try to help.
Whoops, so sorry. I was shutting my vehicle off and it shut me down completely. So sorry. Okay, so super quick. My commercial real estate listing off of Independence is finally getting some traction because of the Wally's gas station that's going in. And I had a showing yesterday, and I have another showing today. And the gentleman yesterday was asking about cap rates, and he got blueprints ordered from the Jackson County Courthouse, which I didn't know you could do that. So I'll embark down that journey and get those also, because you have to apply for them. But I don't know anything about like trying to explain. There's 3 different building options, like 3 different addresses for this one building. And he knew all sorts of stuff about like it has to have a door in the front and a door in the back for retail and all this stuff. And I don't know any of that stuff because this is my only commercial listing. So I just wondered what other people have seen in the industry.
Not sure I fully understand your question. Are you asking about cap rate specifically, Shelby?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Does your seller have a pro forma?
What is that?
And that's going to be detailed information around on the lease agreements that they have and what kind of income that's drawn on that property, so they can show an evaluation. A property is worth a lot more. Like imagine a strip mall that's completely leased out, and you got 7 tenants in there, and they're all paying on time. You love them. They got great leases. That's worth a lot more than a strip mall that's sitting empty without a single tenant in there, because that thing is a business now. It's up and running. You've got people in there versus no people. So if he has a pro forma, he'll know exactly. Your seller will know exactly what you're talking about, because you can And this goes with Airbnbs as well. When you're selling those, you're selling a house, but you're selling a business. And what's the power behind that business? So you need to be able to show what that looks like to a potential buyer, and they would be very interested. So do I have to bring capital and continue to make payments, or do I instantly have a business that's up and running, and all I do is continue to maintain the leases and take care of my tenants?
Okay. So we have one tenant and he's a chiropractor and he only pays $860 a month. And then the other part of the building, the other two addresses, is occupied by my seller, who is the veterinarian, and she is going to close her business once we sell the building because she wants to retire.
Do you know if she pays herself rent?
Oh, she has not mentioned that. I will ask.
Because your cap rates are your net income
Yeah.
divided by the value of the property. So you want to know what that net income is. So the fact that you only have an $860 income right now, divide that by the total cost of the property is different. But if she's been paying herself rent on those other two units at market value, and this is why a lot of people pay themselves rent, by the way, if you want to go down that rabbit trail. But it's if you're paying yourself rent, then you're increasing the cap rate on that building because you're increasing that total income. And so to get the net income, you do the, obviously your total income, all these rent incomes that are there, minus expenses like property taxes, insurance, and any like ongoing maintenance to get a true cap rate. And so you want a higher cap rate generally on those. And so in order to, you got to be able to get that income higher or the property value higher, one or the other, or both. If you can offset it, that's really kind of great. You adjust that.
Okay.
And so, I mean, you can Google formulas for cap rates, but the biggest thing is just don't forget expenses and don't forget income. And so if you can increase that income on those other two units or show that it's been rented at a fair market value somehow, even if it's her to herself or something to that effect, you might be able to help with that, getting that more accurate cap rate. That's the problem also, by the way, with people using cap rates, because cap rates are good, but how you formulate them are different. What the seller you have as a cap rate might be very different than what you're going to have as a cap rate. Because, for example, property management, the seller might be self-managing managing the properties, so his total expenses might be significantly lower than somebody that might be buying it and then using a property management company, for example. So just something to be mindful of.
Okay. Okay.
Also,
Perfect.
is the seller planning to continue working out of that building, or will they be moving out?
She's done. She is ready to close up shop. She just wants to be a temporary veterinarian for like fill-ins, but she doesn't want to work at all 4 days a week and manage people anymore.
So that does hurt moving
Shelby,
forward, but sorry, it does hurt moving forward. But again, if she has a history of getting certain rents on that, and then it's going to be vacant, at least she has the history of attaining a certain cap rate, which will help you sell it.
And what's her lease agreement with their other tenant as well? Is it month to month? Did they sign something 10 years ago and they haven't done anything since then? Or is that tenant locked in for another 5 years that you could count on that income specifically coming in every month?
The chiropractor is year to year, and he's really good about paying ahead. But when I think the rents should be like $1,100 to $1,200 for his space. So I don't think the rent he's paying isn't even doing anything at the end of the day. He pays his own utility bills, but $860 for that square footage is a lot less than it should be.
Deal. I'd pay early.
So Shelby, do you know what the square footage rates in that area are for rentals? How are you determining that the chiropractor is not paying enough?
I've heard from multiple other people who have toured that have said should be like $1,100 to $1,200 for rents. Like
Okay.
many
How
people
many?
have said it, but
Yeah.
I
How
don't
many
know.
square foot is that how many square foot is that section then? that part,
Give me just
that address.
give me just a second. Let me pull up my floor plan. Okay, so the chiropractor office is 714 square feet and it has a half bathroom.
Okay.
How do I calculate it? How do I figure out what other people are paying?
Well, I would take that square footage times, or let me make sure I've got it right. How many square feet is it?
714.
Okay. Does that sound, Joe, that's like $1.54 a foot. Does that sound right? Am I doing that math right?
Sorry, I wasn't tracking the math on there, but
Yeah.
I mean, usually, I mean, I don't know where it is. I don't know the area, but I know like general $15 a square foot for rented commercial space.
Okay, sorry, so I probably was missing a decimal point. So that was right at about $15 a foot.
Okay.
So then you can take $15 a foot times the space, the other space that
Okay.
she's occupying,
Okay.
and that will kind of get you a base number.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. Like when we did comps initially, that's why I suggested just having an appraisal, because most of these commercial listings, they're just on CoStar and LoopNet, and they want so much money to advertise, and she wasn't willing to pay that kind of money for advertising. So, how do you comp if you're not in one of those websites?
Yeah, it's a tough question. It is tough. You can do it based off square footage. You can do it based off a cap rate. There's different ways. I mean, this is also a really good, I know it sounds silly, but this is a really good example of when you could use a tool like ChatGPT to scrub that information for you. And you certainly need to check it, but you might go in and say, and plug in a bunch of formula or a bunch of data saying, hey, this is the area that you're looking at. This is the region. Can you scrub the different sites for me and find out what the average square foot is per, or what the average square foot rental price is or sales price is. Rental price probably on those in order to calculate your future income. And a lot of times you might be impressed that it might come up and give you a range of those numbers to be able to come up with for that cap rate, or not not just for the cap rate, but just for the square foot price and everything. And then you can use that to calculate your value. So you might have to play with several different ways to do it to find your average price essentially as a sales point if you don't have access to, all those different third party bigger commercial sites.
Did we come up with $15 a foot? Is that what we think we came up with there?
That's just an average that I use a lot for just general stuff, but depending on areas, obviously that can be significantly higher or lower too.
Definitely. I know for our market center, obviously we're transparent at our market center. So you guys and us as realtors, we pay $16.50 a foot is what we pay. So that's our number there. But we're in Raymore. It's a nice newer building. I don't think that's premium. There's other places even in Belton commercially that are asking 18 or 19 a foot. But 16.50 is pretty reasonable with where we're at. So depending on the area, at $15 a foot, that may not be too far off. But if you're in Overland Park, it may be half price.
Or where is the property at, Shelby?
It's in Independence off 39th Street.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult location. Is that okay to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can say whatever you want. We're all friends here.
Okay, yeah. It's a
You're not
difficult location.
It might be a little less than 15 then. So, but your square footage times 15 adds up pretty close to $1,100 a month. So, you might be pretty close there. So, and hey, Shelby, don't feel bad. 9% of us would be in the same predicament you are, because I don't know. I've had one commercial listing and I never got it sold. So it's a little bit different ballgame than what most of us are used to. But hey, once you're done with it, you're going to be able to teach us some things. So there you go.
Hey, I think I just got lucky with this gas station coming in, to be totally honest. So, because literally I was standing there speaking with this gentleman, and homeless people were walking across the parking lot. So it's not, yeah, I think I'm just very blessed that that gas station has chosen that location. That's the only reason I can figure out why I've had any action on this building, because it's been dead. I've had it for 2 years. So it's, yeah. So, okay. Well,
I did
thank
a
you all so
I did
much.
a quick search real quickly, and I just typed in real rough rudimentary information just while we were sitting here, and it's
Yeah.
kind of giving off kind of in line with what we're saying, but it's saying office space is anywhere from about 10 to 18 per square foot in Independence. Retail space is about 12 per square foot, and industrial is closer to 10 per square foot, and that's specific to the Independence area. And that's
Awesome.
with very little details entering in there. So you might take some of those numbers and then just go out and look for a couple properties that you can find,
Okay.
and then calculate that. And then remember, that's based off an annual amount. So multiply it times the square foot and then divide by 12 to get your monthly rents, etc.
Okay.
So those are fun. Those are good topics.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Um, And then, so sorry, I was trying to facilitate some of this. I jumped on a little bit late because I had a closing at 9:30, and so I was trying to get that wrapped up real fast. But this is great topics to start with. I'd like to go down this track a little bit more if you guys want to. Otherwise, I can turn a little bit. But um, I first wanted to ask, because I feel like it's applicable and we might as well get value from those people that are there. About, I know you guys are probably tired of it, but how's the bold going? What do we need to know? Those of us that aren't on bold, what are your big takeaways? Or who is on bold that's here? Because other words, we'll turn the topic if we don't know, other than Brandy, I guess. Yeah, Brandy, you're welcome to talk to, obviously.
You're muted, Brandy.
Yeah, I think you're muted. I don't hear you. She doesn't say she's muted.
Okay, does that work?
Yeah, we got you.
Ah, I'm in my home office. Don't judge me. I got a little bit of everything in here, but in half this wall is painted one color and that wall is painted another color, but
Scent.
it is what it is. And I'm reviving my home office and my computer and the microphones and all the stuff. So here we go. I know I'm in bold and Steve Collins is in bold. I love bold so much, so much. I love it. And this coach, like I said last week, she's amazing. My favorite bold coach ever. And so yesterday we talked about the path is in the math and how it's stuff we've heard before, but if you don't track it, you can't manage it. So no, and there's numbers everywhere, and learning what to prioritize, what we want to track, what we maybe don't need to track. That was really good. But the part that I really, really loved was the afternoon part where we jumped into your network is your net worth, and learning about building your personal wealth, and learning all that stuff. And you just never can hear enough of that. And she gave us some homework to get on a retirement calculator. And she used the Dave Ramsey one, but you can use any of them. So that's on my list of things to do today is to figure out what's the number I need to retire. And then we also have to get a net worth tracker of some kind. And so I'm going to be looking if anybody has like an app, or you could do it the old pencil and pen paper kind of way, but I'm thinking with Chat GPT and apps and all that stuff, there's a much better way. So if you got one that you like, maybe share it with me or throw it in the chat so we can all use it. But she said, if you want to obsess about anything, obsess over that net sheet, your net worth sheet, and visit with that thing every week. And because she said, you know, what you focus on expands. And so that's something that I've kind of just done in little spurts here and there. Like, yeah, okay, we'll do it. Okay, it's bold. I got to do it again. No, this time I'm looking at it differently, going, no, I'm a year older now than last year. And what have I done with that? You know, I have an old spreadsheet that's about half finished. And this year I'm like, nope, we're going to do it. We're doing it, and we're going to do it all the way. So it's been wonderful. It's been great. Like I said, I will always do bold just because of what it changes my life. It helps me level up. And you know, I know every part of it's not my favorite part, but overall it really is a shot of just truth and encouragement to get my stuff together. So that's kind of been my takeaway from it so far. I don't know if Steve is available or able to speak to it, but it's been really good.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same line as you, Brandy. My big takeaway, I didn't even think about it, but the MREI stuff that she was talking about to kind of expand other people's thought processes on how to grow their own wealth. I deal with a lot of younger people. And being a coach, I kind of have that influence over a lot of guys that are just kind of starting in their lives that probably never had that. So that was a great eye opener. I've kind of followed down the bunny trail with that a little bit. But the other that I really didn't think about before yesterday was what tax incentives have we not taken since I've been in business? That I think is the biggest takeaway for me on that part of it.
Sorry, I'm writing some of this down, but this is all good.
Yeah,
Just the two of you.
it's really, really good. And hopefully we can get some of our other people to speak to it too, because I know we all grab a little something different from it. And every year, like, you know, I know it's Tim's favorite phrase, you know, no man enters the river. It's the same man doesn't enter the same river twice or something like that. And it's so true. It is so true. Because and here's the other thing about bold, you don't have to take it all in. It's like 6 weeks of intense, I don't know, like you can't possibly do all the things every year. And so I'm learning to grab a couple things and really implement at a high level and make it worth my time and money invested.
I would have been there this year had it not been on Wednesdays. And I'm kind of bittersweet with bold. Like I love it and I kind of hate it. But I think I hate it because it's like, oh man, that's a lot of work and I got to do it. But I love it because of the accountability tied to it. And every time we take it, business takes off. And
Oh, can I say one more thing? Because this was a big aha yesterday. She talks about how her name's Amber Rutherford. She's out of Tampa. And she talks about how she's a part of Gary's top 100. And so those are the top 100 agents in the company, in the whole company, that get invited to go to Austin and Gary's ranch and all this stuff. Like it's a big honor to be a part of the top 100. And she's in there. And she said, she goes, do you know what I noticed? She said, she was talking about lead generation, and we all do have, like, it's only 15 minutes. She made us call people for 15 minutes. And she said, you know, she senses a lot of fear in the room around that activity. And you got people over there talking with each other. You got other people looking like they're busy. You got some people scrolling. It's that way every year in every bold room I've ever been in. You got people going to the bathroom and not coming back and all the things, or going to their car, whatever they're doing. And she said, you know what that is? And it's fear. It's fear. It's around fear around lead generation. She goes, do you know what I don't find in Gary's top 100 group? Fear. There is no fear around lead generation. She goes, you know why? We've made peace with it. We've made peace with lead gen. And she said, it's not like, oh my gosh, who am I going to call? Scroll, scroll, scroll. It's, oh my gosh, who else can I call today? And so it's the difference between the two rooms, the bold room and Gary's top 100 room, and that make peace with lead generation. That was a huge aha that I think a lot of us could use. If we find fear and anxiety around lead gen, we don't have peace there. We have fear. And so we've got to overcome that fear, attack it, get to that place of peace with it. And it's, knock it out. Once you remove fear, it's no longer a big thing. So anyway, that was a huge aha. So anytime I feel anxiety or worry or fear around it, it's, you know, I just got to recognize it for what it is. Then I can tackle it. Once you have a name and a face for what your enemy is, you can have a strategy to attack. And so that was a light bulb moment for me yesterday at Bold.
Hey, Brandy, I would stack on if I could there.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love what Bold does because it helps remove the fear because it does get you into action. And it's like doing anything the first time that was difficult. I mean, think of a hard thing that you tried the first time you ever did it, you know, maybe riding a horse or whatever it may be, or coaching a team. You probably had a little bit of fear around that. But once you got into action and you kept doing the activity over and over again, it gave you that confidence. And I feel like Bold definitely does that if you'll let it. And you got to embrace it. You definitely have to embrace it. And I love the Chuck Yeager story that they tell in there. I don't know if they still do that or not, but it's one of my favorite stories. And when I teach a class next, I'll tell the story again because I'm old and boring. But it's one of those things where you just overcome it. You just do it anyway. You feel the fear and you do it anyway. And I think one of my famous quotes is, "I'm not smart enough to be afraid." And that's just the idea around like, what's going to happen? You know, what could possibly happen on this phone call? And besides, we're calling from a place of contribution and care when we're reaching out to these people. So we're here to help them. We're not trying to sell them snake oil. It's not like we got used cars out there, right? We're actually calling to help them get from one place in their life to another. And if you're not doing that, you're being a bad agent. You're being a Jenny. Don't be a Jenny, right? So we've got to feel the fear, do it anyway, call these people and make sure that they know you're there for them. It's awesome what's on the other side of that. It truly is. And that's what Bold helps me do when I'm in that room. It helps, it gives me more power.
Yep, absolutely. And then one thing she did say from the previous week, and I'm going to butcher this. I've got the concept. I just don't have her nice little one-liner that she threw out at us. It's in my Bold notebook, but she said something about if you do struggle to call people, it's not that you don't have a fear. Well, she said it's not that you have now I'm saying fear. You don't, it's not like you really have a problem with lead generation. You have a value problem. Like you don't understand the value that you bring because you call people all the time. You talk to people all the time. You go to the bank, you go to the car wash, you go to wherever you go and you talk to people without any problems. But when you pick up the phone, you suddenly are stumbling over your words. What do I have to say? Why would they want to talk to me? It's a value problem. So if that ever is something that you're struggling with, it's that you struggle with knowing what value you bring to that person. Like Ryan said, to make the move from one place to the other, how do you really bring value to help them? And if you're not convinced that you can help them and that you have value, then why are they going to believe that you do? And so that's where we need to hone in on. Once you believe in yourself and believe in the gift that you bring, the solutions that you bring, it makes it a lot easier too. So, and if they reject you, it's okay because you're not shaken by that. You know who you are, you know what you do, you know what you bring next. So it's been really good.
Yeah, I know I say this a lot, and I hate talking about the same things over and over, but this is really important. I think I do really believe that being a good business person makes you a better friend and an acquaintance. And I think if we approach lead gen that way, it will disarm. Well, it'll disarm our own fears, frankly. And so I don't remember. I was at step one. I don't remember if she said it then or if I took it from something else, but I really appreciated if you need to get rolling into things and you don't want to do a traditional lead gen call, just start with care calls or start with a call of gratitude. I liked that. I think the gratitude might have been the one she said. Just when she's in a funk, she just starts with 5 calls of gratitude, and that kind of puts you in a different mindset a little bit. And I I've always liked the care calls as a way to lead gen. Um, Fear is punk. We can't let it stop. Yeah. But I always like the care calls as a form of lead gen because it helps us reach out and just, we're not really asking for business right then. There's a time to ask for business and that time will come. But if you come about it first as, hey, we're just trying to help you guys. We're just trying to see how things are going, admit that we haven't been who we need to be and we want to be better. A lot of people want to jump in and come along that ride with you. And then once we get past that, I think those care calls, that gratitude helps us get over that fear. And then once we get past the fear, then I think we just, most of the time, I think where I fail is I fail to the level of my systems. It would be the next thing is I'm not necessarily afraid to pick up a phone. I joke about that with Carrie all the time. I just want to take her phone and scroll through her contacts and tell her to call somebody. She'll never do it. I want her to, but like I'm okay with people doing that because I can have that call of care call, take it to a care call conversation, and then it disarms. And then after that, then it's just a matter of finding the systems in place to help create that. Like for me, if somebody tells me what's my problem with lead gen, a lot of time it's like, oh, where do I start? I kind of get the deer in the headlight look of like, who do I call kind of thing. And I'm kind of teeing this up a little bit because today we are trying to, I believe it's still at 2 o'clock for tech, um, the tech class, and it's the whole part of that is creating tags. And one of the things that Bold does well is help us create those tags or create systems like the DTD2 model that tells you exactly what you need to do today or tomorrow, and set those systems in place so you don't have that fear in the deer in the headlight look, and you're able to just jump in and have those calls.
Joe, one more thing to add, since you are teaching that today, and I'm so glad she showed us something different. Take the DTD2 system, run it like it is, make your calls, make your texts according to the plan. But then she added on something I never thought about before, which is your Facebook. You know, I think I've got 2,000 friends in Facebook or close to it. She says, why not run that same play, the DTD2, through your friends? So you can actually search your friends list by a letter of the alphabet. So if you're doing A and W, go to your A's in Facebook, DM them. She said, go to where the people are. If they're in Facebook, because that's how you know them, that's where they live in your world, go there and send them DMs that week, all to your A's and your W's, just like you're doing with your database. This just send them a DM about anything, a private message. And then that way you're adding on to the people you're connecting with in that week. So, you know, especially on the weeks like Y and Z, you may not have very many people to call that week, but, you know, add in Facebook, you might find a few more. So I think I never had thought about that. I just thought DTD2 was about my database. And if I got a couple hundred people in there, great. But then it opened my mind to go, oh my gosh, I have so many more Facebook friends. I could do the same thing with Facebook and send them DMs, you know? So I thought that was a cool thing she brought to us yesterday.
And you can reach so many more people so much faster doing that.
Yes.
I mean, you can send 10 DMs in the time it'd take you to make a call or something, you know, it'd be, or more really. That's really good.
Absolutely.
Like that. It's the same system. It's
Yep.
just stretching our mind a little bit to realize the tools at our fingertips. That's cool.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, I'm backing up a little bit on that because this is fun. Who does anybody on here do their net worth tracking and have a sheet that they could get Brandy? I have one. I have to dig for it, but I love that. Okay.
How often? I mean, I've done it several times, but I don't do it like quarterly.
I'm really looking for a tracker that it lets me just fill in the blanks. You know, here's my assets, here's my liabilities, here's, you know, all the things, and let me just fill it in, and then it gives me a nice magic number. That's what I'm looking for, and I bet you there's something out there. So
yeah, whenever I buy a rental property, I basically have to create a pro forma of sorts, basically, and that's kind of what it's asking for. And what's that called? I wish I could think of the name of that form, but it basically asks all those questions. I know I have one. I'll look and see if I can get it for you. One from Country Club that just says, "Hey, what are these things?" And then it's kind of a plug and play thing. And once you do it, then it does tell you your net worth at the end, your income,
love it.
your expenses. So.
Well, if I do find something, I promise to report back and share it with the group. I'll probably share it with Jake, and Jake will run with it. He
Oh,
can
that's
teach
smart.
probably a whole class on it
Yeah.
or something, but I promise to share whatever I find.
I do love
texted
that.
you an old link that I use. That I
Oh,
used to
okay.
use.
Sweet.
I haven't looked at it for several years on that link,
Okay.
but it used to be a pretty good tool.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, one of the silly things I just wanted to mention this because this is something personal that I did recently. Like you talked a little bit about seeing net worth as something you focus on expands. And that is so true. And I've started getting, even recently, I was like, where do I have money sitting that's just not making money? And so I started looking at credit card points and all of that. That's just sitting in these other accounts. And like I had Venmo money that people had paid me that I just let sit in there. I was like, I realized that I have a few $1,000s sitting in these different accounts that aren't making any money. So I literally cashed out of those and had them sent. I have them set to an Edward Jones mutual fund, and so I just have like account there that I send all that to, and at least I'm making 4% on that money each year. And it's funny that those little tweaks, it grows exponentially every year, and it makes a big difference. If you, I mean, I joke about it in property management. Nobody do property management if it was just for the management fee. Property management, it's a bunch of nickels and dimes that all add up to something. And I think that that's a lot of how you need to think of your net worth. Like you may not have a ton of money in cash in the bank necessarily, but you have investments that are growing and exponentially growing each year. And just, I love that. And I know Jake will geek out on that too. So
You just called me a nerd?
yeah.
Yeah,
Are
that's
you,
super exciting. They
are you
say
offended?
it's the rule of 72. So take your 72 divided by your interest rate, and that's how long it takes that money to double. So if you're getting 9% interest, it'll take you 8 years for your money to double. So if you have $50,000 and you don't add anything to it, every 8 years it'll double. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you do that 4 or 5 times, you have 50, 100, then 200, then 400, then 800.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, that's why everybody was kind of giving Silas a hard time about investing early, just because that power of time is insane.
Well, any other topics you guys want to talk about? Otherwise, I'll turn the corner and ask you some other questions that are kind of fun lately. Um, I wanted to ask you guys what are something that came up for me recently that I've realized in the past, but literally I had to do with the closing I had today, honestly, so it made me think about it a little bit more. Do you guys know the rules on the MHDC program? VA is similar to this too, by the way, but I wanted to kind of ask about that as far as payback and how that works, how those funds work.
A little bit, Joe.
I mean, mainly bring it up because I will ask somebody to explain it, but I think I know it, but I want to, I just think it's important. We often put these things in front of buyers, these programs in front of buyers, or we try to get them because they can buy a property that they might not be able to buy otherwise, which I think is the fantastic part about it. But it is important because those programs change quite a bit. MHDC used to be like, I remember when I signed up for MHDC, I think we had to live there for 3 years. And if we lived there for 3 years, we didn't have to pay any of it back. And it was like 8 or 9 grand. And it was fantastic. Um,
It's
the
10
way
years
I
now, isn't it?
say
10
that
years?
again.
I think
Yeah.
it's 10 years now.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to bring up. So, and so I'm going to give you a little bit of a case study because it's ours. It's one I just looked at, and it's great for my buyers. It's going to work out fantastic. But the way I believe the program works now is, yes, it's 10 years. So they'll gift you, I don't remember how much money they'll use toward the down payment. I don't remember what the cap is on that. But I know the one that we have right now that we did yesterday was not, or today was $9,500 that they got toward closing that they don't have to bring. And actually, these people, because they had a little bit of gift funds tied in there, they actually got a check for $400 back at closing, which is cool. So when you think about being able to buy a house and getting money back, those are the reasons we use these programs, right? But what is kind of tricky on that is you get this $9,500 that gets tagged on to the end of the lease or end of the contract. I'm sorry, the loan. And that money you have to pay back in full if you, I believe you have to pay it back in full if you move anytime within the next 5 years. At 6 years, I believe you have to pay 80% back. 7 years, it's 60%. 8 years, it's whatever, 40%. 9 years is 20%. And then after 10 years, that whole amount's been forgiven essentially. But the aha I had is educating our clients well on this, because if they do intend to use this program, but they really only plan to be there 2 or 3 years, that could really be detrimental to those buyers if they're not careful. And the way I had to rationalize that a little bit was by saying, basically, they're having to pay their down payment when they sell their house instead of when they buy it, if you think of it that way. Because like the house we bought was 250,000, but in order to, I did quick math on this. When you figure out paying back that $9,500 plus the 6% commission ballpark, which you're going to have to pay to sell that in 2 years, that house, I have to be able to sell that house for 277,000. And that might work in certain areas, but in other areas, that appreciation might not be there. And so I just think that's important to make sure we realize how some of these things work. That way, in 2 or 3 years, your clients might not realize when they want to go buy their next house that they may have to come to the table with quite a bit of money if they want to sell their house. They may not be making money on their house like they'd want to. What are your thoughts on all that? Or talk to me.
I had one come up probably about a year and a half ago. I helped a lady buy a house using that program, which was fantastic on the front end of it. But you're right. Her dad got sick in Georgia and she had to sell probably less than 2 years later and moved to Georgia to take care of her dad. And in that, we had her number figured out for her payoff. But when I encouraged her, hey, don't go from memory. Don't go from your statement. Call your lender and find out what your payoff actually is. And when she did that, she found out the payoff for her MHDC loan, and it is a second loan. So it's like they have 2 loans. So she had to figure that out. And once we did the numbers on the net sheet, you're right. We got it done to where she didn't have to bring any money to closing, but it ate up all her equity in 2 years, which it was a little house in Independence anyway. So we were able to do it, but I was a little nervous that she would have to bring some money to closing to get all of that taken care of. But so that was kind of her, experience. And yeah, and realizing for her, and I don't know if it's lender to lender, but her MHDC payoff wasn't included on her normal mortgage statement. It was like another statement or something else, and she didn't always pay attention to that. So
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I've got a lot of clients that, years ago were thrilled with the MHDC program, younger kids, first time home buyers, and they're great, but they have got to understand in order to really get that second paid off, you're going to have to stay in your house a minute. You can't be just jumping houses from left to right. If you know about it, you need to have that in your mind. You need to plan for it accordingly.
And VA is similar, I believe, in their funding fees and everything as well. So a lot of times I just think, like I have my brother-in-law is a good example of this. He went and bought a house and he wanted to use his VA. And I said, great, that's a great program for certain people, but your situation, you may not want to use it because he was in a position that he could pay the down payment. And it's up to him if he wants to use it or not. But instead of tacking that onto the end of his loan and then having that amount also be something that you're paying interest on. And for him, it didn't take long for me to talk to him and him realizing, hey, this may not be the best thing for me in this given situation. Now, if you're a veteran and you don't have that down payment and you wouldn't be able to buy a house otherwise, it's fantastic. And so I just think both of those examples are ways that we need to make sure that we're aware of a little bit better when we're coaching our clients when they're talking about using a MHDC loan or VA or any of these situations.
So I was listening to Dave Ramsey the other day, and he used to be a huge advocate of don't buy a house unless you can put at least 20% down. And then he had adjusted his take to say to 3.5%, 5% down is fine. And the reason being because the house appreciation is so quick. By the time you save up that 20% down, you've lost so much purchasing power. So that's kind of how I equate to that MHDC. Like, yeah, is it the best thing? No. But how long is it going to take you to save up the 10 grand that you're going to get from that? Is it going to take you 3 years to do that? Well, then you're probably better than just using the MHDC program versus renting for 3 years and then having less purchasing power at that point.
Yeah, if you don't have the money, it's fantastic. It's a great program. If you have the money, it may not be the best.
So the other thing too to think about is talk to a bunch of different lenders because there are other lenders like Supreme, and then there's a couple on the Kansas side that they have their own programs that their timelines are actually shorter if they qualify for those things as well. Like some of them are like a 36-month turnaround for forgiveness, whereas the MHDC is that longer term. So there is other options. That's why we've got to have that big list of lenders. I know I've sent several of my people to other places other than just one or two, suggesting that they talk to this person because this program might be better for them than another program. And only the lender will be able to tell them which one's the best for their situation specifically.
Yeah, I think that's smart too. Bradley, Chris, are you still on the call? I know I see you up there. I didn't know if she's listening. I had some questions for her.
Yeah, I'm here, Joe. Sorry, I was muted.
No, it's no problem. I was going to lean on you a little bit on
Yeah.
without you knowing it this morning too, because you talked a little bit about. I know you're in this this sale for this fourplex, and you said you had questions and stuff you're learning along the way.
Yep.
I was gonna try to see if you wanted to bring up any of those topics now of things that you are trying to learn.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm learning it as I go because I just, I'm gonna figure it out. But the best thing that I have learned is honestly working with you guys because I have sold fourplexes and duplexes before, not a ton, but probably 6 or 8 in the 10 years I've been doing this. And one of the things is that these properties have always been property managed by what I call mom and pop shops. So it's always just been, I deal with one single person. They're not really a property manager. And I think it's curious how different it can really be when, like in this situation, we are dealing with a true property management company and a lot of the stuff is taken care of for you. And the questions I have had all along is I don't know what's my responsibility versus what's the property manager's responsibility. And so I'm quite honestly bugging the hell out of Joe and Carrie because I referred this client to them, and Joe has graciously been their property manager for what, 3 years, I think, Joe. And but yeah, I've learned a lot in this, 10 years into this by, that things are done differently when you work with a property manager versus mom and pop, a neighbor down the street's taking care of the books. So, which is good, because I always like to learn, but I mean, it's just kind of it's not bad. It's just you got to learn how it's different. So.
Yeah, and I think the biggest difference there is that mom and pops often can get away with doing things without, a little bit more under the
Yes.
radar. And for us, like I mean, in all of the leases, and even in mom and pop leases, if they're using any kind of a standard lease at all, and often they don't.
Yep.
But it talks about the tenants having the right to quiet enjoyment, which is
Yep.
really important. And that just means we just can't just go in and knock in and go into these tenants without good cause. And so like having to give tenants sufficient notice to be able to get in, which is why a lot of times on these multifamilies, as you've seen, Chris, and I think you did on this one, was a lot of times offers are written without the buyers even being in the property.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've had that happen before. And we have, I had a fourplex that we sold right over in Raintree a few years ago. And the same thing happened, they had the standard lease language like you had talked about the right to quiet, whatever. And it's fine. It's just, when you're dealing with a property management company, you guys, I'm able to get a hold of you because I know both you and Carrie, but if I had a different property management company, I probably wouldn't have been able to get a hold of them on the weekends and, give notice to the tenants that inspections were coming up and that kind of stuff. So, it's just, you gotta dot your i's and cross your t's and make sure you're, following all the rules. So, yeah. it's just been a learning experience. And again, like I said, it's not about the, can you sell the property? Yeah, I've done it before and I'll do it again, I'm sure, but each situation is completely different. And in all these years, the, 6 or 8, how many ever I've sold, I have never dealt with I'll call it a bona fide property management company like you guys. I mean, it's great and it's helpful. But it's a different ball of wax. So nothing you can't deal with. Just gotta
Sometimes,
learn.
frankly, it's more stressful. I mean, even in our situations, I think from your perspective, you'd say it's probably more stressful to deal with us at times. And I think that's fair, but a lot of that's because we have an obligation to give
Yeah,
notice and to be able to,
yeah,
how are you getting in? Agents have to be there. Like, obviously, if we're going to let you in and they're like, I'm the broker of the management company, right? If I let
mhm,
you in as an agent and if something happens in one of those units that are not vacant, then
yep,
who's responsible? Are you responsible? Am I responsible? And so it's like there's just extra precautions being taken.
yeah, yeah. Just a different thing. Like I said, you just gotta go, you gotta dive in. That's what I was thinking about Shelby earlier is, I've got some commercial land and, basically I just have asked anybody and everybody and I've had it for 3 years, that listing. But I'm not afraid of it. And I call the county and I talk to, the city of Raymore, and I just get as educated as I can about anything and everything they'll tell me. And I just call and play dumb. And I am dumb on some of these things. And I just say, hey, I need your help. And, I know how to put the listing in. I know how to get it listed. All that I can deal with the client. But again, it's just, I wanted to get traffic counts. I wanted to, get the information, that kind of stuff that, I would have never thought of when I was selling a house. So I think in this business, you just never, there's just no way to know it all. So,
No, and that's why I appreciate call or questions like Shelby had earlier, and then even
mhm,
Chris, you talking with us on this. It's so much nicer to be able to walk alongside a company or another agent who's done it, or to know those people that have those little niches. Mine might be
yeah,
property management. Others might be land sales or commercial, and to be able to know who we can go to walk
yeah,
alongside with, and those are just really important. I know.
yeah.
Well, I guess that's my question. Who do any of you guys feel like you have any little niche areas that you guys feel like you excel in? I could look on here and see a couple people that I'm like, oh, I'd go to them for this type of question, but I'm curious to know who of you would feel that way.
I mean, I used to, of course, go to Brent for land. And then when Devon joined our brokerage, I still will call Devon for all kinds of different questions. And now I call him for property restoration and stuff like that. So he's a great resource. I know he doesn't seem to be as involved like he used to be with our agency so much, but I think you can still call him and he'll always answer your questions.
I feel like I look and I see Jake on here and Ryan. I feel like you
Yeah.
guys all have niches I'd call. And there's several of you. Tom, you have your niche. Like I just really appreciate that. And so I would encourage people to start. That's one of the reasons why I want you guys to try to be open with those as much as you're able to, because I would love for other agents to start. I would love to go to lunch with Jake or Ryan and just say, hey, these are some ideas I have that you look like you excel at. Give me some insight on something that I might be able to do, especially if you're getting to Brandy's topic of net worth tracking. What can I do differently in order to increase in an area where I might be lacking, but I have interest in, and then feel, start rubbing elbows with people.
Isn't the answer just to sell more houses?
Feel like I've
Usually,
heard that a time or two on these calls.
I'll be honest, about 5, 6 years ago, I didn't know anything about dirt. And Brent Brent had some property out of a Prospect, and they were splitting this big parcel up right on Prospect. And I'm like, what are they doing out there? So I drove out there and I'm like, there's already frontage there. There's utilities out there. They got a surveyor out there. I'm like, I could do that. I could figure that out. And so I got a little frustrated, pissed off maybe. I don't know. I'm like, I'm going back to the office. I'm figuring it out. And so I did. I went back to the office and I asked Stephanie politely. I got unmad and I'm like, hey, start finding me properties that are for sale that have frontage, that are rectangular, that we could survey them out. And sure enough, we did. We found one on Harper and like 235th. And I didn't have any money. I didn't have $600,000. So I had to pull an investor in on that. And so I went and found some money. And the guy, I told him, like, I'll make you money. I promise I can make you money. And he's like, you're crazy, but all right. And so he invested in this deal, bought it. And then we got the surveyor out there. We split the lots into 6 lots, about 60 acres, broke it into 6 10-acre parcels. And during the course of that, we actually raised the price of the land on the last 2 lots. And I made him an extra 50,000 on those, end up making him over 250 grand on his $620,000 investment. So it's a good return. I kicked myself there, like, man, why didn't I just go find that money myself? But it was one of those things where I saw somebody else do it. I'm like, I can do that. It's not rocket science. And then, so that's where I kind of got into that. And then I got a phone call from another investor and asked me if I knew how to sell land. I'm like, yeah, I just finished this one over here. And that's ultimately how I got out here where I'm sitting right now, because I wanted to buy some dirt. And so it all just kind of fell like that. And we're finishing up our 4th development right now on selling dirt. I don't think I'm like some amazing realtor around selling dirt. I know a few things and I'm happy to share any of it. But the only reason I even did it is because I'm like, I saw someone else do it. And I'm like, I think I can do that. And again, I'm not smart enough to be afraid. So I just jumped in and figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a key thing too, is, I've heard other agents as they come into the business and they're like, oh, I'm afraid of that. I don't know how to do that. And I'm not going to say that that isn't sometimes in my brain, but at our office, there's enough people around that if you haven't figured it out, somebody else has come damn close to figuring it out. So you just got to start asking questions and think about the right questions that you're going to ask, and don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. I remember, when I was when I just got my license, and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Yeah. Ryan, you were my productivity coach. You're like, just go do it. Go do it, and you will figure it out.
Phone.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
gambling on
No.
yourself,
Yeah.
right?
What's that?
You're gambling on yourself. It's not
Yeah.
even gambling,
I mean,
right? You're taking
yeah,
a chance
you
on
just-
yourself. And I don't want
that's what
to
I
fail,
was
so.
telling you, Joe, the other day. I'm like, I wish you would teach a class. I mean, maybe not everybody be interested in it, but if you teach an hour class to realtors like me that have been doing this for 10 years, that just say, hey, these are some things you need to think out when you're going to sell a multifamily property that is being managed by a property management company. And it'd be like, oh, okay, good things to note, So, I mean, I'm just thanking God every day that you and Carrie are the property managers on this property that I'm selling, because, I'm sure another company, I couldn't just walk in the office and, say, hey, I got a question, but,
Well, it's been a pleasure for sure. But
well, thanks.
well, I want to leave the last minute or two just for any lingering things that are out there that we haven't brought up that somebody might have been wanting to ask. In other words, we'll tap out. You have something, Ryan?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, is anybody inviting their clients to the autumn harvest or fall harvest party we got going on?
Yeah, I've got 20 RSVP'd already, so and we got a second round of invitations just went out this morning. So
Fantastic. I see Shelby shaking her head and Trisha shaking her head. Yes. I see Steve shaking his head. Just kidding. I can't see him. I hope you guys are all inviting your clients. This is such a fun event and such an easy call or text message to make. And the price is right. So hopefully you guys are doing that. I'm working out here at the property today, but I am taking breaks and getting with clients to invite them, and hopefully we'll have 20 or 30 there, and it'll be a fantastic time.
good. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
We'll go
Joe,
sell more
appreciate it.
houses, right? That's
Good call.
Yeah, go sell something.
thanks, y'all.
We'll see you guys.
Bye, guys.